Before I start, I got you some information and some toys I have to explain, because we found out it's not easy to find out what it is good for. And I'm talking about this thing you will find in your folders. So it is actually, if you have a mobile phone, a smartphone, and I'm sure you have, you can use it to stick it on the back of your mobile phone. You take it off and you clean your display with it, and you can stick it back on your mobile phone to reuse. You can wash it if it doesn't stick anymore. And it's about cleaning your cell phone from dust, from whatever. And what I'm talking about now is cleaning your business, your portfolio from fraud. Just a really quick talk about the situation currently in terms of fraud. When we look at fraud scenarios that are happening right now, they become more and more the same for any virtual banking account or banking channel. It doesn't make any difference if fraudsters pick up data with Trojan horses, whether that's a credit card, a debit card, or it's an online banking. It could even be an online ID where you buy at Amazon, or even your Apple ID. Anything can be captured with Trojan horses and can be used for fraudulent activity. So the threats we are seeing for electronic payments in terms of fraud are the same for every channel. In particular for Maestro cards, the opening of the internet e-commerce market for debit cards will be a big risk to banks, because the same fraud threats that apply for credit card in terms of internet will apply to debit cards as well from then on. A really interesting, or let's say bad thing that we see is new technology that is used to protect payments. And I take the particular example here, 3D Secure. The life cycle of such solution gets shorter and shorter. So 3D Secure, for example, the enrollment within Central Europe was, or the availability was in 2004, 2005. The enrollment up to 90% was in 2007, 2008, maybe 2009. And we saw the first full 3D secure authenticated fraudulent transaction already in 2010. So there is not really a long time that 3D secure could provide security, could provide protection from e-commerce fraud. And now, as fraud rates become lower again after a big hype in 2009, 2010, now is the time to invest in new technology, because there is a saying, and I translated it from German, so I'm from Germany, and the saying says, you should fix the roof when the sun is shining, not when it is raining again. So that's what I propose. So I'm talking about the evolution of fraud prevention systems, and let's start, I just call it level 1, and it is about knowledge-based system. Just did a little break.
Please can you make your way back to the conference room? Thank you.
Okay. So level 1, knowledge-based systems means system that you can feed with knowledge, intelligence that is provided by human people. So they analyze your data, they analyze fraud patterns, and they translate those patterns into rules. And you got rule interpreters that can stop transactions while they're happening in real time to prevent fraudulent activities. A rule typically looks like if MCC code is something and POS entry mode and the amount is higher than, decline the transaction. That's what typically a rule looks like. That was level 1. Then level 2, some system that provide the capacity of artificial learning, neural networks, are some automated systems to identify fraudulent activities and to stop those. And again, that's the next level of fraud solution, and gives some burden away from people that analyze data to identify fraudulent activity, because they can learn somewhat themselves. So what's level 3? And I just invented those levels, so there is no public literature. You can read this. Level 3 is what I would like to introduce to you today. Level 3, and that's why I call it the revolution, is a new technology that has been developed by ourselves and a partner of ours, which is a scientific institute in Germany called Fraunhofer. So I don't see people bang his head. So Fraunhofer doesn't ring a bell to anybody. But let me tell you, if I tell you their most famous invention of Fraunhofer, you will know, I'm sure. And that is the MP3 format. That was invented by Fraunhofer Institute in Germany. And they invented a new data mining technology, which this presentation is about. The technology is a fully automatically data mining algorithm that runs through any kind of relational database that you have with your transaction data, with your fraud data, and without any human interaction will find every fraud pattern that is existing in your database. That we can guarantee that with this algorithm. It is. And on top of that, it's not only automatically find all pattern, it will describe those pattern in ready-to-use fraud rules. So you can take the rules that the system creates automatically and put them into your real-time system to stop any further fraudulent activity. And this data mining or this rule creation can happen in near real time. So whenever you have new transactions that lead to a new fraud pattern that is identified, you will immediately have the means to stop this fraudulent activity. A little bit more about the technology, and I'm not in this technology in very detail. It's called subgroup discovery. So it identifies out of your database, out of your transactions, automatically new patterns, and any field, any information that is available in the transaction, in the authorization message, can be used for the rule creation. So whether it is the amount, MCC code, POS entry mode, or any field out of the EMV DE55 field, for example, any of those fields can be used to build a rule. The rules are easily readable by any human being, and as I said, they can be used to stop further fraudulent activity. That's mechanism 1. Mechanism 2 is a so-called similarity learning, and it is a clustering of data and find similarities between transactions, between patterns, and to create rules to, again, identify those patterns in real-time transaction monitoring. And yeah, it sounds too good to be true. Everybody we're talking to says, well, how can this be? There is no way that a data mining tool can really guarantee that every pattern, every theoretical combination of information within a database can be identified and can be calculated. But we can tell you, we've done it. We've done several proof of concept. We have the first customer live. This is very new. I think I will show you a quote from our first customer later on. But it's really easy because the solution, and you see the name there, Mintify, that's how we called our solution, works with any relational database. We don't need the transaction data. We don't need the fraud data within our database. Whenever we do the rule creation process, the mining process, we read from the original database into the memory, and we do the mining and the rule creation in the RAM memory. So we don't need any integration. We don't need any database adoption to your database. We just read. We store the rules locally in our system, and we just drop the transaction we used for the data mining. And when we do the next time, which can be every 30 minutes, every hour, every day. We just read it again. Every rule can be simulated, which is necessary if you create manual rules, because the strength of the system, finding every fraud pattern in the database, is the weakness of the system on the other hand side. It only finds the patterns in the database. So whenever you get information from partners, from Visa, MasterCard, whoever, about a fraudulent attack, about a database hack, that will not be represented in your data yet. So you need the option to define rules manually, and that is provided by Mintify as well. And you have the option to simulate those rules on historic data. Every rule will come with certain KPIs, and one of them is the detection rate, the percentage of the total fraud that is detected by a certain rule, and the false positive ratio, which represents the true fraud hits, so fraudulent transactions that you hit with that rule, and genuine transactions that you prevent with a certain rule. Because what we've not invented yet is to only find fraudulent transactions, 100% of them. That is not done yet. Yeah, very easy to install. The installation at the customer was live within 6 weeks, so it's not a big installation, big integration project. The only interface that needs to be done is if rules are handed over to your real-time system, that needs to be done in a project. Besides the fact that really every fraud pattern will be found, there is a dramatic cost saving connected with Mintify, because the job that Mintify does, analyzing your data, analyzing your fraud information, your authorization database, and create rules, test them, change them, simulate them, all this will be done by Mintify. So this piece, which you see here in green, is completely automated, and only if you want to do some manual rules, if you want to add some manual rules, that needs to be done, of course, manually and to simulate them. Anything else will happen without any human interaction. You just need somebody to start to push a button, take the time frame of the transaction history, choose the portfolio, choose, if you're a processor, choose the issuer, choose the merchant, whatever, and then press the go button, which leads to starting the data mining process and will result in a list of rules sorted by priority or by quality, let's say. The best rules, which means the best false positive ratio, will be the first one, and you can predefine for every rule creation process the maximum accepted false positive ratio, and then the result will be a list of all these rules. Just to give you an idea how those results could look like, these are the results of 7 of the last proof of concepts we did. Customer geographic is US or Europe. The third column shows the maximum rule length. It's configurable. You can define that a rule can have at a maximum 3 arguments, 4 arguments, 5 arguments, or 2 arguments. And you can also define whether a rule should be a one-dimensional rule, which means it only applies or it only uses the data of the incoming transaction, or if it has velocity criteria, which means it takes also into account the history. And those are the detection rates we have achieved with the rule sets and the false positive ratio in the last column. So you see, we got quite some good results here. 40% fraud detection, which means with the automatically created rule set, we detected 40% of all fraudulent transactions with a false positive ratio 1 to 2.81. Means for every fraudulent transaction we find 2.81 genuine transactions are declined. And there was another one pretty good, 1 to 2.34, with a detection of 46.69. And for those countries where higher false positive ratios are acceptable, for example, for the United States it is, because they don't actually decline transactions, they just create alerts, and then they have huge call centers to do outbound calls to check with the cardholder. So if 1 to 7 is acceptable, we even reach 67% of detection. So 67% of all fraudulent transactions will be identified with those automatically created rules. To give you an example how such rules look like, so this is a simple one-dimensional rule. So the rule sounds like if the merchant country code is ALRA, ARG, and PIN entry mode is 0, and terminal ID is this one, and the score value is 660. And you see it in this example. If you have a scoring system already in place, we can take this into account and take the score value in the automated data mining process and create rules that also consider the score value. That's a simple rule. This is a rule that takes velocity into account. So you have the transaction parameter. If the amount is greater than 90, POS entry mode is 81. And transaction category, whatever it is, in this example, is X. And you got an historical piece. The total amount of all transactions within the last 1 week of this card number was less than 3,554.48. So very precise. But that's what the data mining process have found out. If that's the total number of, or the total of all transactions within a week of the particular PAN, then it is very likely that it is fraud. And even more complicated on the historical side is if the current transaction is higher than or greater than 404 in currency, I guess it's US dollar here in this example, and the number of transactions, different to the rule before, is less than 4 in the last 8 hours, and there is at least one more transaction within the last 2 weeks, so the card has been used in the last 2 weeks. The e-commerce indicator is 211, POS security is 0, message type A, and transaction category is U. Then the transaction should be declined because it's very likely to be fraud. These are only examples that we have created in the past proof of concepts to give you an idea how a rule looks like. So that's actually the language that comes out of the rule creator. We show, of course, the rules all nicely, very nicely on the UI, but that's the language we deliver to the receiving system if those rules can be applied in real time, and it is an XML format. There is the customer quote. So now you see Atos is the first customer using our system Mintify, and they are live since October last year. And we got quite a good statement from them that the results are exceptional. And a single rule detected 12.5% of all fraud with a false positive ratio of 1 to 0.34. I don't know if you're familiar with that kind of numbers, but this result is really great. Besides the potential, as I said before, to be assured that every fraud pattern will be found.
For those people who are attending the Smart Card Awards and Gala Dinner at the Emirates Palace, please can you collect your tickets from stand number 59. For all inquiries related to the Smart Card Awards and attendance, please also visit stand 59. Thank you.
Okay, besides the potential to identify every fraud pattern and to reduce, of course, your fraud losses, there is a huge cost-saving potential for the data analytics in your business. So you don't need any expensive data analytics tools. You don't need people who can use, or you experts in using such systems like data mining tools, for example. Mintify does it fully automatically. It's once installed, it runs every day, every week, whatever you configure, and it will always come out with a new set of rules. And because we just do the data mining on, the past 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever you define, 6 weeks, we always have the current data. So the rule set that will come out of this data mining process will be the most current rule set. So you don't need to you don't need to update a certain model because things have changed across the world. It's just your data, it's your business, and it's the fraud in your data, your threat to your business, and we just describe that threat in rules. And whenever it changes, the rules will be changed automatically. So potential savings here is because of typically fraud analysis stuff can be reduced. The decline referral rate for genuine transactions will go down. So it's increased revenue, and typically fraud losses can be reduced. By the way, the 3 largest Atos customers reduced the fraud since using Mintify by 40 to 43%. Okay, so you ready for a change? Ready for the revolution in fraud management? Yeah, please challenge us. We have a stand over there in booth 45. I will show the map again. We offer, as we are always hearing, this is unbelievable, it's just not possible. We offer proof of concept for a flat fee. So if you want to learn about this, just come to our stand and talk about it. That's where you find us. You see, this is the delegate catering area, it's just over there. And there is our stand next to Payfair. Thank you very much for listening. And if you've got questions, I'm here or stand 45. Thank you. Sorry, you need to use the microphone.
Hi, are you working with anybody locally?
Not yet. That's the first time we are having a stand here. So as I said, Atos, the first customer, live since October. So we're a young company, 3 years in business, and we are entering the market here right now. We have talks with a number of banks, processors, but we are actually looking for a local partner. So if somebody is listening to me right now, we are looking for a local partner in the Middle East.
I have a question about data mining.
Yeah.
Where is the database remaining now? You have the data mining you have done. On which database? Where is the database?
We can do it with any relational database. Right now it's done on an Oracle and on a MySQL database. So that's in production, but any relational database that can read, it can provide us with a table view, basically would work. Our system ourselves, where we store the rules, works with Oracle and with MySQL so far.
So, I'm not tools. I'm asking about in which database you have results have been.
Okay. So the results in the proof of concepts have been done on. It basically card transaction, issuing, acquiring, e-commerce. We are performing right now proof of concept with the global leading online gaming provider. So the solution, because I said before, we really don't care about the data. It could be we're talking to airlines, we're talking to a payment service provider. We are running a proof of concept with as I said, the global gaming provider. Healthcare insurance is another thing. So wherever you have transactions that can be fraudulent, it doesn't even need to be fraudulent in terms of online gaming. It's not only about fraud they would like to identify. It's also to identify possibly addicted people, because there's a lot of compliance rules that are put on those providers. So it's let's say, to identify exception. Typically it is fraud, because that hurts the most, but it can also be any other exception. Any more questions?
Thank you for the presentation. Do you need, in order to come up with the correct set of rules for an issuer or a gaming, let's say, site, as you said, do you require to get a historical data from the transaction system into your database in order to do the data mining, or you will run a set of queries or a set of analysis algorithm directly into the existing transaction database?
Yeah, so we can do it on the original transaction database. We just read. You just need to tell us in the project the database, the table structure, what kind of field, length, data type. And then the second step is you have to tell us which of these fields are we allowed to use to create rules, because some fields may not be usable in your real-time system. So that's a one-time thing, and whenever that's defined once, And whenever we do the creation process, which is up to you, we take those fields and do the mining on them.
So it's not a prerequisite to migrate all the, historical data to your database.
No,
You can
not at
run
all.
it directly
No.
there. Yeah.
No, Atos they have their own transaction warehouse. So whenever we get a table view, and whenever we, they do it just once a week, we read that table view, and keep it in memory. So we need some memory, some RAM space, but we don't need to migrate data. We don't need to replicate data, duplicate data, nothing
So
at all.
your database will only contain the set of rules that you
Yes.
have.
Yeah, the rules, and we also have case management functionalities. We also have KPIs, dashboard with basis points that we calculate automatically. So that kind of application data will be stored as well. The rules on top, but that's it. No transaction data.
If I'm having a new service, no historical data, I cannot utilize your system, correct?
No,
Okay.
we don't. We need data. It's data
Okay.
mining, so we need historical data.
Do you have a repository for certain rules that can be utilized across any financial system, any e-payment system? You
difficult. We license software, so we don't.
You don't host.
We don't
services.
host it ourselves. No.
Thank you.
We have offered it quite some times, but in terms of doing fraud analysis on a central place, it's typically most players in this market, not in this market here in regional, but in the payments space, are not up to. So they want to keep their data locally, and so you need data. You need your own data history. You need the fraud history, and then our system works perfectly well. But without history, it doesn't work. Okay, so thank you very much again, and I hope to see some of you at our stand. Thank you.